A win streak ended in Cleveland on Sunday night, but it wasn't the Pacers. They beat the Cavs. Their defense was awesome. Everybody did something important at a big time, and we're going to break it all down today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Monday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, oh man, do we have a lot to get to from Pacers Cavs. A statement win for the Pacers, who do it only having their star for half of the game. They go into Cleveland. They handle the Cavs. An unbelievable second half for the Indiana Pacers, as the Cavs just couldn't score the whole half. They shot terrible. They couldn't get into their offense. The Pacers figured some stuff out, and everybody, and I mean it, everybody who hit the floor did something important, as the Pacers win streak is now 6, all by double digits. For a brief moment, they were 4th in the East. Now they're 5th. The Magic won last night, and they look great. And their defense and everybody chipping in this, for lack of a better term, got it done. So here, that is where I want to start in this game. Is what has stood out to me so much about this Pacers run, and something I feel like I've said a lot after wins they've had against good teams, is something to this effect. I say everybody did something, everybody contributed something, and there were a lot of games early in the season where it didn't quite feel that way, right? Their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best guys in games would just kind of be 1 for 4 and not do a whole lot. And they've had a lot more games recently where it speaks to their depth and the quantity of talent on their team that they've had these kind of games. Tonight was a little different, though. It wasn't just that everybody did something. Here's what I mean by it in this specific game. If you're just sitting at your house and you didn't know Pacers Cavs was happening, and you looked it up on your phone, you said, oh, it's happening. No matter what time you happened to turn the game on for the first time, the start of the game, the late in the first quarter, early in the third, whenever you did it, a different Pacers player was the one who was playing the best at that specific moment. That's what was so interesting about this game. No one player really dominated the entire game. And I think that is fascinating as a way to win against a really good team. For example, the Pacers' halftime scoring leader was Myles Turner, who had 10 of his 15 points in the first half. As the Pacers were going into this probably a little too perimeter-focused style in the first half, they weren't shooting very well. They needed something to score. And that something was Myles Turner, who was 3 for 7, but got to the foul line and was the first Pacers player who really felt like had any sort of success ducking in and finding success down low. 6 points in the first quarter, as the Pacers, after starting down 10-0, surged back into the game and eventually took the lead, right? If you watched just the first quarter, turned it on early, you'd say, wow, Myles Turner has been the Pacers' best player. If you flipped it on in the second quarter, you'd have been very impressed by the Pacers bench that started the quarter strong, and the starters came in and stunk it up to close the frame, as the Pacers were down huge at halftime. But you might have said, wow, Thomas Bryant's playing really well. 4 rebounds. He hit a 3. That was awesome. Or Myles Turner or Andrew Nembhard. Look at him go. He hasn't missed a shot yet. Or even Tyrese Haliburton, who we will talk much about after he got hurt in this game. Wow, 3 assists for Haliburton. He's really keeping the ball moving for this Pacers team, who cleaned up some turnovers. That was the worst quarter for the Pacers of the game. But lots of guys at various moments were the best player. You might have flipped it on in the third quarter and thought, oh my gosh, Ben Mathurin must be having an awesome game. And I thought this was the most important moment of the game, so I'm going to diverge from my narrative here of every player having a key moment. The Pacers were down big at halftime, and something I put in my notes was that Pacers need a guard to step up, right? The way the Cavs are with their front court dominance of Allen and Mobley, and how much trouble that was giving Turner and Siakam. I'm not saying Turner and Siakam played bad, but it was clear that the Pacers were settling for too many jumpers and were struggling in the paint and might lose the front court battle. They needed a guard to be better, and Haliburton and Mathurin and Nembhard and McConnell were like fine at best, I guess, in the first half, but not good enough. And I thought if the Pacers get one guard who can get to the rim or make some threes, one or the other is enough. Just someone who can be a threat on the perimeter, that would unlock a lot for their offense. Someone they can play through, be confident in. Early third quarter, the only good stretch he had of the whole game, but it was so needed. Ben Mathurin's third quarter was huge. 7 points in the first, I believe, 4 minutes of that quarter. Important 3, 2 drives to the basket that created something. He finishes that frame with 10 points. Had he made it both of his free throw attempts, of which he missed both, he would have had obviously more. Plus 20 in just the third quarter was Ben Mathurin. But then Obi Toppin comes in off the bench late in the third quarter without Mathurin on the floor, and he has 10 points in the last 5 minutes of the quarter on 4 for 5 shooting. You might have thought Obi Toppin was the best player on the floor. If you flipped the game on at that time, you might have thought TJ McConnell was late in the third or early in the fourth quarter when he was really setting the Pacers bench in motion. But early in the fourth, you probably thought it was Jarris Walker, who was rebounding like a beast, who made his shots. He had 5 rebounds in the fourth quarter. Jarris Walker, a Pacers high, plus 11 in that quarter. You might have thought it was Siakam because the Pacers were trying to run everything through him in that quarter. He took 6 shots in that frame. And then at the very final minutes of the game, you might have thought it was Andrew Nembhard, who was awesome in the fourth quarter, got a ton of praise from TJ McConnell in a very TJ McConnell way on the FanDuel Sports Indiana broadcast. 11 fourth quarter points for Andrew Nembhard, 4 for 5, banked in a 3 that was the dagger, 2 assists. He closed it out as the solo point guard with Haliburton out with an injury. Absolutely massive. Every single player did something. Ben Shepherd never had a stretch where you thought, man, he's the best player on the floor. But he was still rock solid all night. He started the second half. Ben Shepherd finishes 2 for 4, made a 3, was plus 11 with 5 points. Every Pacers player contributed. That's happened a lot for them in wins, though. What happened in this game was every single stretch of the game, they needed something else to go their way to be better than the Cavs. And someone else every single time stepped up to lead the charge. And that was fascinating. I have never seen them play like that. And I thought it was really cool how they kept evolving throughout the game. It says a lot about their trust in each other as a unit and kind of their malleability right now, right? That, don't get me wrong, they have an identity. They play high pace. Haliburton sets it all in motion. They can go to Siakam when they need to. When everybody's humming and they're playing random and the ball's moving, they look great. They look at their best when they get to that 30 to 35 assist range. They got to 30 against a pretty good Cavs defense. They've been dominating the possession battle this year. That's why they're 6-0 in 2025. They were pretty good in those areas tonight, winning both the turnover and offensive rebounding battle. And I can go on and on about all the stuff that's made them better since they were 10-15, and I will talk about many of those things in the second segment, including the defense. And all that really mattered for them winning. But the way that they were able to change their focus, right? Early, they were trying to get their threes up because the paint's going to be tough with Mobley and Allen. And that wasn't really working. So they changed how they were going into their offense. And early, their defense wasn't quite working, and they needed more size because the Cavs were pretty big. Okay, let's play some more Jarris Walker in the second half and use some more size units. And yes, Haliburton getting hurt changed the makeup of their defense too, but they did a good job adjusting in that way. Like, Jarris Walker never is the guy who leads the team in minutes off the bench. Technically, if you look at the box score, you'll think that's Ben Shepherd, but he got more minutes because he started the second half, right? Lots of stuff had to be tweaked and changed and thought about and revisited. And every single time the Pacers did that, someone else had to step up to make it work. And that happened all night. It was very impressive. And that's how they got to win, among many other things that went their way. Now, some of their key style things really remained. I just ran through these, but 92 to 83 in shots, despite even free throws. 9 more shots for the Pacers was important because the Cavs hung around, right? They were actually accurate from the foul line, unlike the Pacers. They made 11 threes just like the Pacers, right? The 2-point battle was key, and that's a smaller variance game, so you need all that extra volume. 9 extra shots for the Pacers, and they win by 15. They needed every single one of those extra chances that they got. 3 fewer turnovers for the Pacers and 3 extra offensive rebounds. Both played a big factor in that. Siakam and Turner with 6 of those 9 offensive rebounds and 3 of those turnovers for Nembhard, only 7 for the rest of the team. While in the Cavs, 4 for Garland and 3 for Mitchell. That's already 7 of the Cavs things. So that style change that we've seen from – change is the wrong word. That style swap we've seen from the Pacers was a big part of things. You know, they really have lasered in their focus in that way this calendar year, and that was important. And then something else I've been talking about, they got more threes up. It doesn't look like it, only 35. That's below average. That's good against the Cavs, especially early. Man, were they letting it fly in the first quarter. They were 3 for 18 at halftime in this game. I think 11 threes in the first quarter. So their plan early was what I thought it would take to beat the Cavs. Get up a bunch of threes, play the way the Pacers have, where you get into the paint, spray out from there. But they weren't able to get into the paint. They were just kind of tossing around the perimeter, low-quality threes, and they still got enough up to play their style and play their game, but adjusted as needed. That malleability within their own style was very impressive. What a statement for the Pacers, who had won 5 in a row. And don't get me wrong, you never apologize for a 5-game win streak in the NBA. Golden State's 500, they're good. Like, it's a respectable win. Chicago's fine, but below 500. Brooklyn stinks. Phoenix is exactly 500. You know, the Heat had Jimmy Butler, but they're clearly in some sort of twist. Like those are fun. All those wins are fine. I mean, the Nets wins not, but are like fine quality wins, but not great wins. This is a statement great win. This is the best team they beat this year, and they beat the Celtics twice, right? That was the best win for the Pacers this season. That was the second loss in Cleveland for the Cavs this whole season, this entire season. The only other one being, I think, Atlanta around Thanksgiving. They had won 12 in a row. They were rolling. Their last game before this against Toronto, they didn't look very good. But before that, they were absolutely rolling. They looked great. They looked like one of the best teams in the league. And the Pacers beat them. And they beat them pretty handily in the second half of this game. Very impressive result from the Pacers. And I haven't even talked about what I think is the best thing they did in this game. It's not the biggest story to me. The Pacers' malleability was the biggest story. The best thing they did was defended. They defended the Cavs very well. And I'm going to talk about how they did it. Can they do it again? What it's taken and their defensive context during this win streak. Before we get to any of that, though. Hey guys, short break here to talk about two great groups of people. First up, the good folks over at Ultimate College Basketball HC, who offer a brand new mobile game that a lot of people are getting excited about. Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you ever dreamed of being a college basketball coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players and hiring a coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarships. It's all right in your hands. And when it comes to game time, you get to draw up offensive plays and set your strategy. The way you play won't just affect the current season, it will shape the future of your school's basketball program in a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. Here's a special offer for Locked On NBA listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCBB, that's all in caps, inside the game store to get a free boost to your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. To download Ultimate College Basketball HG, just visit ultimate-cbb.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Basketball HG, begin your coaching legacy today. Let's also very quickly talk about Game Time. I love going to live events, sports, music, theater, comedy, whatever it is. I love being there. And one of my favorite memories of live sports was last year, going to the many playoff games I got to see. Just that atmosphere of being at the game is unforgettable. And now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. Feature filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, for example, you could have been looking for tickets to see the Pacers play the Cavs. It's coming right up. And use the Game Time app. They have Game Time Picks. You can find amazing deals and even see the view from your seat before buying. They have super deals that'll be really impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On Cavs to hear about Danny Cunningham's maybe stunned, I don't know how he would describe it, performance from the Cavs, who played maybe one of their worst games of the season. On the way they played, maybe not the number one worst, but the score says it was among the worst. First time the Cavs have been held under 100 all season. 93 points for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Danny and I just spoke about an hour and a half ago. I'm going to run that as the third segment on Tuesday's podcast. Today, I will talk about it myself because that is already impressive. If you told me before this game the Pacers held the Cavs 93 points, I'd have been stunned, and they did it. And the Pacers defense has been much better since that Hornets game, right? That has been well documented. I literally wrote a story on that. That is now 15 games ago, right? They've been terrific on that end of the floor. And over the last 15 games in the NBA, right? So since that Hornets loss, the Pacers defense is 8th in the league. 8th in 15 games. We're still in small sample land in 15 games, but like they've played what I can't do math 40. They're getting pretty close. They're at about a third of their season. That's not a good estimate, but you get what I'm saying. About equally as close to a third and a half of their season is 15 of their 40 games that they've been a top 10 defense. That's remarkable. In their 6-game win streak going on right this second, which again does not feature like a murderer's row of opponents, but in that stretch, they're second in defense. Only the Thunder have been better than the Pacers in the last 6 games. The Pacers passed the Jazz today as the Jazz struggled, but still won against the Brooklyn Nets. And again, they haven't played like incredible teams, but they played Cleveland, for example. in that stretch. They played the Suns, who have a top 10 offense. They played the Bulls, who have the 12th best offense. The Heat have the 14th best offense. 4 of their 6 opponents in this stretch above average offenses, right? Brooklyn and Golden State, the 2 ones under, and any Steph Curry team. Steph didn't play, obviously, but as at least a decent offense. Let's say a Steve Kerr team to make it sound better. They're 20th. The Nets stink on offense. That's fine. But either way, 4 of their 6 opponents are good offensive teams, and they held them down. This one stands out still among the best. In fact, it's probably number 1. The Cavs, after this game, have the best offense in the league still by 2 points per 100 possessions at 121.2. The Celtics are second at 119.2. For reference, the Pacers, if their points per 100 possessions was 2 points higher, they'd be 5th in offensive rating. And if their offensive rating was 2 points lower per 100 possessions, they'd be 17th. The Pacers, for reference, currently 9th, right? Huge gap what 2 points is. And that's the gap between the Cavs and the Celtics. They are an unbelievable offense. They've been buzzsawing everybody all year. Their effective field goal percentage, by far the best in the league. Their true shooting percentage, by far the rest in the league. They have a healthy pace, like right around average. They play the way they want all the time. They get good shots. They make them. And the Pacers held them to 93 points. The best Pacers defensive game of the season. Let's talk about what happened. The second half is primarily where this happened. The first half, the Cavs were better, not great, but better on offense. They had 53 points in the first half. They had 40 in the second half. So a couple things stand out as important in this game defensively. One is that this has nothing to do with the Pacers. The Cavs stunk shooting from 3. They were 11 for 41, and I will say this. It's very easy for people to say, oh, they were contested looks. They were not. The Cavs actually generated some pretty good threes and just missed them. Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, guys that they're role players, but like reliable role players, couldn't make them. Those 2 are combined 2 for 10. George Niang was 1 for 4. Max Strus was 1 for 5. It's not that Garland and Mitchell were great or bad from 3. They were mediocre, but nobody got going from deep for the Cavs. 11 from 41 was tough. Now, here's why I won't hear that as the reason they lost, is because for almost the entire game, until the last 5 minutes, the Cavs had a better 3-point percentage than the Pacers. The Pacers made a few to put the game away, including Nembhard banking one in, which obviously is it's going your way kind of thing. But, that's not why the Pacers won. They didn't just get some variance luck from deep. In fact, it was quite the opposite. But the Cavs did shoot bad. That matters for the Pacers' raw numbers. This 11 for 41 game where the Cavs shoot 26.8%. Is, I can't do very quick math, the 7th worst shooting game of the season for the Cavs. But guess what? They were 6-0 in the 6 games they shot worse than this from 3 this season. So again, not necessarily something that I would consider like a major factor in the results because of the Pacers shooting side. Obviously relevant to the raw number I'm talking about, though. What did matter, and what stood out to me as the Pacers' best defensive game and thing they did, was the way the Pacers walled off the rim was awesome. Right? You go into this game and I don't know how many of you listening to this watch the Cavs all the time. I obviously haven't watched every Cavs game, but I watch a good amount of Cavs. They play at the same time as the Pacers on a lot of nights, but when I can, I watch this team because they're very good. And Allen and Mobley are amazing. You could argue first and third best player on the team this year, right? They've been incredible. And I thought they'd be good today, and Mobley was really good. I thought he was the Cavs' best player in this one. He had 16 and 12. For the season, Evan Mobley averages 19 points and 8.8 rebounds per game on 57% shooting. So he was held below his average shooting and right about his average scoring. Jared Allen shot 50%. He was 3 for 6 with 11 points and 9 rebounds. He averages 14 points and 10 rebounds and shoots 70% from the field. So those 2, first of all, those 2 are both held below their scoring average for reasons, but the Pacers did a good job of not only containing those guys, making it hard for them to get a clean look in the lane. Siakam did a good job making Evan Mobley at least pump fake or double, think about what he's doing in the lane. Jared Allen just never, he has to have his shots created by other people, and the Pacers did a good job containing him in those actions. That's all great. Slowing those bigs down, I was worried that would go sideways for the Pacers, and it didn't in this one, and that helped them a lot. But what the Pacers did beyond that, walling off the rim in a major way for everyone else, that's how they won this game defensively. Every non-Cavs big really struggled from 2-point range. Let's run through all of them. This will be, I promise, worth it. Dean Wade, 0 for 0 on 2s. Donovan Mitchell, 4 for 10. Darius Garland, 4 for 7. Max Strus, 0 for 1. Karis LeVert, 0 for 1. George Niang, 2 for 2. Good job, George Niang. Isaac Okoro, 0 for 3. Sam Merrill, 0 for 0. Every Cavs player struggled inside the arc. Like, it is remarkable. Evan Mobley, I think, is the only guy who shot a healthy percentage on twos. And that's a credit to the Pacers, who did a lot of things well in this game. Their ball pressure was great. They were picking up 94 feet. Ben Shepherd had that assignment a lot. McConnell did sometimes. They really wanted to make the Cavs get into things slowly, because when they get to run their offense for a long time, it looks healthy. They get good shots, right? Nembhard involved in that as well. That pressure mattered, but it continued down the floor. They did a good job of staying with Mitchell and Garland, who can be crazy good at any given moment. Those two combined for 7 turnovers and were 14 for 33, which is like okay, but it's not great, right? They did a really good job pressuring the guards, and all the rest of the guys who were kind of like rare cutters, or not really drivers, but kind of drivers, they just cut them off. Like LeVert never got going. Niang only got going when he was playing the 5. Dean Wade never got going, and the guards couldn't get to the rim. There was just no paint pressure for the Cavs, who generate good shots all game and generate good threes, but didn't as many in this game. So not only did they have their 7th worst shooting game from 3, they scored 40 points in the paint, the Cavs did. That is tied for their 3rd worst points in the paint game of the season. They've only had 2 lower, and they were both in mid-December when they played the Nets, and the Wizards did 38 and 34. 40, their 3rd lowest of the season. Now, they are undefeated when they score under 50 points in the paint in the game this season, because their record's so good. But still, they're that good of a shooting team, and the Pacers did well defending everything. They cut off the rim. They prevented shooters. They put pressure on guards. They forced turnovers against a low turnover team. They made life hard for 2 very good bigs in tandem together. 24 assists for the Cavs, who are a magnificent group at keeping the ball whirring. That's their 5th worst, of the season when it comes to their shooting. I just got their 3-point percentage stats wrong. That is their worst shooting game of the season. I was looking at their opponent's shooting games. So their worst 3-point shooting game, go back and ignore everything I said earlier when I said their 7th worst. Their worst 3-point shooting game and their 3rd worst paint defense or paint offense game. And the Pacers did a lot of that. They pressured very well. They adjusted with bigger lineups. Again, Jarris Walker was awesome at blowing up plays. I thought that was a huge moment. In fact, the Cavs' best lineup of the game, which actually kind of blew my mind, but it made sense when it really was happening, was Garland, Merrill, Okoro, Wade, and Niang. And then eventually at one point, Okoro came out for LeVert. That group was in the late second quarter. They had speed. They matched the Pacers' speed in a way that a lot of other Cavs groups didn't. That really changed the game. But outside of those groups, the Cavs were too slow. They couldn't get enough paint pressure. They weren't making the threes they did generate, and the Pacers got the rebounds when they missed. That's how you get it done. Great, great, great defensive game from the Pacers. And here they are, 6 in a row. 6 in a row. I keep contextualizing where they are, but just because of how terribly they started the season. So I'm not going to do it again. What I am going to do this time is say, everybody knows this who listens all the time. I do my schedule analysis podcast, where I break down, where I think the Pacers will win or lose, or what their record could be at any time during the season. And for a while, they were well behind what I imagined their record would be. Well, at this point of the season, in my preseason run through the schedule list, I had them at 23 and 17. They're 1 game behind that. And I had them for 49 wins. Like, they're well on pace to get into the mid to high 40s. They have 2 more kind of easier stretches in their schedule still to come. They're kind of in one of them right now, and then another one's coming. And they're home heavy the rest of the way. And they're about to have 10 days with 2 games because of the Paris trip. Lots of good stuff happening for the Pacers. Unfortunately for them, one of them is not Tyrese Haliburton's health. Hurt mid-game, leaves with a hamstring injury. We know very little right now. Going to talk about that, what the Pacers might need to do to adjust, and plenty more to close out today's Locked On Pacers. One more break here, guys. We got to talk about OpenPhone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone. And before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. And as your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. Well, that is where OpenPhone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility in everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot, hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss the opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months. How about that? When you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA, that's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make sure you jump over for your second listen and check out Locked On Heat. Hear what's going on in the land of Jimmy Butler and a Heat team that is not playing great right now. And the Pacers are happy to have passed them in the standings. Let's close out talking about the not fun thing that happened in this game. Tyrese Haliburton hurt. No fun for the Pacers. This was very surprising to see because Tyrese Haliburton played the last 8 minutes and 23 seconds of the first half and didn't play particularly well. In fact, a lot of people in this game were really overstating some things about Tyrese Haliburton after he got hurt, but he was not defending well at all in this game, and their defense in the second half was much better after he exited. But that said, he did play the final 8 minutes and 23 seconds of the first half, and then the Pacers announced left hamstring tightness for Tyrese Haliburton, and he wouldn't return. That is, of course, the same hamstring that kept him out last year around this time, and the same hamstring that via a different injury. I have to stress that the one he had last January and the one he had last May were different injuries, but still the same hamstring that kept him out in the conference finals. And then we just learned from Drew Hanlon, being quoted in the Athletic story by Jared Weiss and Sam Amick, that it was his hamstring in the Olympics that he was hurt with. So that's 3 times last year that he had an injury, and now tightness in this game. I think he was talking to Myles Turner on the broadcast. Some people were trying to lip read what he was saying. He definitely said hamstring to him. So here's the thing. It's a muscle injury. I highly, highly doubt he comes back just 2 days later, all good to go, right? You got to be really careful with these things, especially because there's a theory to this. Like the Pacers play, I can't do math very quickly, 5 games in the next 16 days. Like they could, in theory, be pretty cautious with this and not miss too much game time. I'm getting ahead of myself. He played the last 8 minutes and 23 seconds of the first half and did not return with left hamstring tightness. I did set the scene with what the injury was. A lot of people said, oh, wow, he played through an injury earlier this week. Does that make sense? I mean, he had an ankle injury in his opposite leg against the net. So unless he was really favoring the left leg, I don't think those are related. Regardless, a huge loss, right? A huge deal for the Pacers. Rick Carlisle asked after the game about it. Said, I was told he was having tightness, but then didn't add anything beyond that, didn't know anymore in the moment. So I'm sure I'll find out more when the Pacers return to Indy, which I'm sure as I'm talking, they're already back. Perhaps we know more tomorrow. An injury report will be extremely revealing. Expect that in the mid to late afternoon on Monday. That will tell us more about Haliburton's status and if he can play going forward. And maybe I just overstated this, and maybe it really was just tightness for one game, and he'll be back, in a game or two later. But very rarely do muscle injuries lead to a very quick turnaround with no issues, right? And he was not playing well. In this particular game, the Pacers did very well without him. And I thought I can't believe that this was more than one person who were like, oh, they're better without him. It's so stupid to me. It's like, have you been watching the team in the last 2 months? Their net rating this season is 6.5 points. No, more than that. 6.69 points better per 100 possessions with Haliburton on than off. Like, they're way better with him on the floor. Their offense is insanely better. Their defense is 1.2 points worse. It's like comical how much better they are with him on the court. It's a huge loss. They did play well without him in this game against Cleveland. So it does hit at the wrong time, but it's still a hit. It's a huge hit for the team. Nembhard, I mean, he's going to have to play like this, and continue to do so at the 1. I will wonder what they'll do in their 5th starter spot if he misses time. Ben Shepherd usually gets that role, but Jarrett Walker playing very well. I mean, this was maybe the best non-big offensive game of Jarrett Walker's career. Like, he was rebounding his butt off. He defended very well, made some huge shots. Maybe he has it because he played that role in the 4th quarter of this game. Maybe Jarrett Walker has a case for the 5th starter spot. They have the resources to do things from the groups that they can start and use off the bench still. Like, they have a good rotation. The Pacers will be an okay to good team without Haliburton, but it's a huge loss. Their offense will be worse if they're going to keep winning and keep playing like this and keep the wins coming. They're going to have to defend like they did against the Cavs. That's going to be the key to surviving without Haliburton, is having a second half like they did in this game. And they did a great job of that. But like I said, a lot of that was the Cavs missing. How does this game look if they go 15 of 41 from deep, which is truly not even that awesome? 15 of 41 would land you at 36% league average. That's 4 more threes, though. All of a sudden, this is a 3-point game, right? So we'll see what this actually turns to, right? Once we know more information about what the injury is, it's a lot easier to talk about potential absence length, ripple effects, how the Pacers adjust. But short term, look for that group that started the second half with Shepherd in there to be the Pacer starters, and then the bench to be that combo of McConnell, Walker, Bryant, and Toppin. That has worked. That's enough ball handling. But the biggest hit for the Pacers is obviously Haliburton's been incredible the last 23 games. Incredible being like that all-star level, back-end all-star level in the Eastern Conference. But their offense is going to have to find other ways to be really effective, whether that's via Siakam and Mathurin, like it was at times early in the season, whether that's the way they played in the second half today, where the ball was still popping even without Haliburton. They'll have to keep that going and find a way to make it work. And then if Nesmith returns, maybe that's another piece that can help if these overlap at all. But either way, big loss. They'll have to figure out what to do. If this turns out to be something longer or we learn more in the coming days, I'll readjust this and say, man, they may need to change this or that for an extended stretch. But they are, in theory, blessed by the fact that the Paris trip is coming up. And they, again, play 5 games in the next 16 days. So we'll see where this lands. Again, muscle injuries, very rarely a quick, okay, come right back. Yeah, you're good 2 days later. I'm not going to say anything for certain. I don't know. Perhaps Tyrese Haliburton plays on Tuesday. But that is where his situation is. That is everything that we know right now and everything you need to know. And more stuff you need to know is going to come out tomorrow on this podcast. We'll talk round 2 of Pacers Cavs with Danny Cunningham like we did a couple episodes ago. That'll be the 3rd segment. The first 2, we'll see if I dig up some interesting topics. I've been asked some interesting questions of late. Maybe I'll have a guest. I don't know. It doesn't seem right when the 3rd segment's already accounted for. We'll talk Pacers Cavs on Wednesday. Rhett Bauer will join to talk trade deadline later this week. We'll talk Pacers. I can't remember who they play on Thursday. We'll talk Pacers' other game they play this week. That's right, Detroit. I'm going. Duh. We'll talk Pacers Pistons Thursday. So much more to come here on the Locked On Pacers podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. And I'm on Blue Sky at Tony R. East as well. I apologize to Blue Sky. I forgot to keep the tab open during this game, so I didn't post there as much. I will be back with a vengeance for their next game. Thank you guys for listening today. Back tomorrow talking more Pacers. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.